not all doctors are trained with these types of things.
Yeah,
right?
fair. I agree.
Every time, it always makes me sort of chuckle inside when somebody comes in from the ER and they got in a wreck 3 days ago, they had x-rays or a CT scan. Everything's fine.
Yeah.
They said everything's fine.
Yeah.
And I always try to educate people on the expectations of a radiologist at an urgent care versus a chiropractic office, a physical therapy office, or somebody that's trained to treat these things.
Yeah.
At an ER, they want to make sure you have a pulse, you're not bleeding out, you're not fractured, you don't have a brain bleed, and that get out the door, please leave. You're healthy.
Yeah.
So quote unquote, you're not dying, get out.
They're not there to make you better. They're there to make sure you're alive. That's it. Another thing is we've seen catastrophic traumatic brain injuries over and over again. They just get misdiagnosed because they're not looking for that. They're looking, as you said, to make sure you're breathing, you don't have any broken bones, you don't have any internal bleeding, and then after that, you're supposed to go somewhere else. Everything looks fine on paper because you don't have any broken bones and you're living, but that's not what they're trained to do. They're trained to make sure you're alive.
Right.
And so it's, I wouldn't rely on the urgent care. I wouldn't rely on the hospital as far as how I'm doing. What I would rely on is how I'm doing.
Right.
I want to know, I know when I'm off. I know when I'm off.
Right.
But in case somebody didn't know how their body was doing, I would still go get checked up.
I agree. I think it's worthwhile. I tell this story once a week in my office, and it's somebody that comes in after a car wreck and they feel totally fine. We take some x-rays. I see some things that need addressed.
Yeah.
They don't feel it necessarily.
Yeah.
And I always zoom out to me practicing and doing this a while and looking at a lot of x-rays. Mm-hmm. There isn't a week that goes by where I treat somebody in their 40s, 50s, or 60s, and I take an x-ray of something and I see their problem area and I see a different area that they're not coming in for.
Yeah.
And it looks really degenerated. It looks really wonky. They may or may not be coming in for that. Mm-hmm. And I always like to ask the patient, what do you think this is from?
Yeah.
And I would be lying to you if I told you that 7 out of 10 of them didn't trace back to a car accident in their 20s and their 30s when they were learning how to drive. They were, oh, doc, I forgot to tell you. Yeah. I got thrown through the windshield when I was 16 learning how to drive. I was with my friend. She was driving crazy. Well, we look at the neck at 45 and there's all this degeneration. Mm-hmm. To me, I think that some of that could have been mitigated by getting checked because pain is the last thing to show up on a lot of these cases.
I was going to say the same thing. It's the last thing to show up.
And it's the first thing to go away.
Yeah.
I always like to educate people, whether they're in a car wreck or not, this is a 30, 60, 90 day plan when they walk in my office. The 30 days is let's get rid of the symptoms. That's why you're calling. That's why you're in here. That's what happened after the car wreck. Let's get rid of the symptoms. And in normally 30 days, you can knock off probably 50% of their symptoms, take it from an 8 to a 4, or just cut the time in half, whatever it be. The next 30 days is working on restoring function. Mm-hmm. I couldn't sit for 30 minutes. I couldn't stand for 30 minutes. Let's start a work. Take that to an hour to 2 hours. So the second phase of that is restoring function. They might still have a little bit of pain, and that's diving down. Mm-hmm. That last 30 days, you're entering that 3-month mark, is becoming preventative, is working on the things that you lost from that car wreck, from a postural standpoint, from a muscular control standpoint, whatever it be, and making sure that you're doing things proactively to where you're not paying for that accident a decade or two from now.
Yeah, 100%.
I think it's huge.